And we're back. That's all jazz all day. Here on HN Wired. Welcome back, everybody. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Africa Biz Radio, Facebook, Africa Business Radio, hashtag HR Wired, and drop us an email, info@africabusinessradio.com. Also go to the App Store or the Play Store, or wherever you get your mobile apps from, and download our Africa Business Radio app. You can listen to us on the go, drop us comments, chat to us, whatever the case may be. All right, we're entering straight into our HR chat segment today. And today we've got LIMUSA, the Liberated Metal Workers Union of South Africa, and we've got their national spokesperson, Dlozi Matooane. Dlozi, are you there? Did I pronounce that right? We went through it about 4 or 5 times. I don't think I got it this time.
Yes, you did.
I did, man.
Let us also check.
Okay, so I get some cakes today. Cool. All right, the LIMUSA, Liberated Metal Workers Union of South Africa. Dlozi, take me through a little bit about the union, a little bit about what you do, what sectors you guys focus on, and we can take it from there.
Okay, let's start by greeting you and your viewers. I mean your listeners. Pardon me for that. And we do really appreciate the opportunity that we have been afforded to be part of this great show. The Liberated Metal Workers Union is actually what it defines itself to be. It's a union of mine workers who seek to liberate themselves from, of metal workers who seek to liberate themselves from the chains of capitalism. Now, we organize not only in metal workers, but in sectors which are also aligned to the metal industry. Therefore, we are a union that is based in South Africa that believes in international solidarity, of which to us is even a principle. We are a union that generally believes in the struggle of the working class and the poor. We are a union that advocates for social justice.
Okay, fantastic. Now, specific areas with, I see you guys deal a lot with the NEL. Do you have any other companies that you guys are dealing directly with at the moment?
Yes, we do actually. It's not only Dinel, there are many. The list is endless. Okay. You can talk about Toyota, and many other companies in the motor industry like your Hyundai. You can talk about your VW. You can talk about your engine, your petrol stations and garages. You can talk about steel companies in the Val. The scope is broad and the list is endless.
Okay, fantastic. All right, we're going to try and cover a whole range of points here. We're going to try the National Health Insurance Act. We're going to discuss the SHEC, which is the Safety, Health, Environment and Quality, and various things. And the tenor of the interview, I think, has changed slightly from when we wrote the brief, we wrote the script. And as I mentioned earlier, what is the worst thing a mine manager, a corporate company, a HR manager can hear when he's sitting at the office? And the worst thing is the union's waiting outside to talk to you. And panic, what's going on, what did we do? And I think there needs to be a change where there's no longer conflict. We need to get together and resolve these issues. We need to talk more. We need to get where everybody is a winner. Is that the way you approach? Everybody needs to win. We need to keep business open. We need to ensure that workers are paid properly and work in the best possible conditions available to them.
I think one thing that we actually need to understand is that conflict itself does not come natural.
Absolutely.
And I think one perspective and one idea that we need to change in society is this notion that trade unions are conflict driven. They are not. All that trade unions is an organization of organized workers whom actually advocates for their interests, but it's also a tool for collective bargaining and many other reasons. But I think one thing that we need to change in society and to avoid is this whole notion that trade unions are conflict driven. They're not, you know. If the employers would listen to the demands of workers per se, I think actually there could be progress. But the problem is that employers are more profit driven. It's more about production than the life of workers. I think you just mentioned even Sibanye Stillwater, you know?
Yeah.
How many incidents have we actually had this year, you know? And some of them are reckless and unfortunate, you know? Because if you check like the incident that happened at Sibanye Stillwater where mine workers died because of seismic events.
Yeah.
They died because of the second seismic event that had occurred. Why couldn't the mine bosses pull out the workers during the first seismic event because the safety of workers was compromised? It is basically because to them all that they care about is profits. They don't care about the life of workers. They don't care about their socio-economic conditions. They don't care about their safety. They don't care about all they care about is using their labor power to get production. If the attitude of the employers, if the attitude of these bosses can also change, maybe we could start having this conversation.
You know what? I agree in certain areas, but having had a look at Sibanye's safety protocols, health and safety, the programs that they put in place, and personally talking to individuals who work there, they are on par and in certain instances way ahead of the curve when it comes to their programs and their initiatives to try and keep their workers safe. And it has just been from various entities. People love working there, and they've just had a really bad run of luck. Can you comment on that, or is there a failing somewhere in the system here?
Listen, we totally disagree with your sentiment, regardless of whether you work there or not.
Yeah.
Based on the following reasons. That is one company which is reckless and which does not care about the safety of mine workers. If you look at the first situation that occurred earlier this year at Beatrix Mine, I mean, which company? I mean, it's known, it's common sense even that mines, due to their nature, you know, they should always have alternative power sources, of which if the electricity fails, then they can use those alternative power or energy sources to make sure that the safety of employees remains, you know, what it should be. Nonetheless, we found a situation whereby 955 workers were trapped underground. You know? The issue that I mentioned of Masakane mine, where by mine workers actually died because of a second seismic event. I mean, logically, you know, which mine would not take out workers out of the mine underground when there is disaster or a natural situation? You know, if they were really prioritizing mine safety, knowing very well that they do not have sufficient safety measures to rescue miners in case an event of that nature occurs, they would have actually been cautious of the first event, and they would have pulled out mine workers during the first event. You know, theory needs to meet practice. I've actually even myself explored their theory and how they claim to be caring about safety and so on. But actually, in reality, is that safety needs to meet practice. What is also disgusting is their reasoning every time this event occurs. If there were a company that actually considered, or an entity that actually considered safety, they wouldn't have came with all these pathetic excuses. And always when there's an event that whereby miners or whereby fatalities occur, they always try and find a way of pointing fingers elsewhere besides themselves. But the reality here is that the problem is with them if the problem is not them.
All right, so you're categorically stating that this is a procedural problem. This has got nothing to do with outside effects causing all this damage.
I mean, which outside facts could that be? If we're speaking about outside facts, what are you specifically referring to? Because this situations happens because of the recklessness of the mine. I mean, what are you referring to?
Well, we touched on the seismic events, the rock shifting, the power failures, the various things, and when we look at this morning, the guy got caught in a scraper. You know, now that to me, I haven't personally interacted with Sibanye. I would love to get their opinion on this. Have you been in contact with them? Have you been consulting with Sibanye?
Listen, you know, we have actually observed their attitude for some time.
Yeah.
And we have listened to their rhetoric. Actually, COSATU and a number of its affiliates, including ourselves, have actually visited the mine, and we have actually interacted with the mine workers, you know.
Yeah.
The issue here is that with the issue that you are referring to of a seismic event being an external factor. Listen, natural events do happen, you know.
Yeah, nothing we can do about
it. First of all, there's always measurements in place in terms of being able to see in time that such an event is going to happen. That is the first one. The second issue here is that the first seismic event occurred, and they knew that they do not have sufficient safety apparatus to protect mine workers when there is an environmental situation. And by the way, had they cared about the safety of mine workers, they should have put them out and then assessed on whether it is safe for those miners to go back in after such an event had occurred. In fact, because they care about profits and nothing else but profits, they told mine workers to continue working, and the second seismic event occurred and miners died. That is the recklessness of the mine. We cannot try and shift the blame elsewhere and try to, you know, to play with words and rhetoric and so on. Yeah. They need to take full responsibility, and they are a reckless company. That is what they are.
Well, I tell you what, I'm not in the mining industry, but what you say makes sense to me. You have a seismic event within the mining industry, within your area of operation. You first assess what damage has been done. You assess the risk to your workers. You stop your operations within that area, and once you've decided that it's safe, you continue. It's
exact.
It makes it's merely logical to me. But as I say, I'm not a miner. I don't know, and it must be remembered that mining is not for sissies. We are going deeper. We are working longer. We are extracting more ore than ever in the history of this planet, and accidents will happen. Do you guys agree that accidents do happen, and it's a normal part of doing business? It's a normal part of mining, and should the proper safety procedures be put into place, things happen.
No, we should first try to understand what are we referring to when we speak about an accident, because I think that is where we need to start before we could agree or even disagree that accidents would happen. An accident is defined that it is an unfortunate incident that happens unexpectedly, unintentionally, typically resulting in damage or injury. You cannot tell me that actually it was unintentional that mine workers died because of, they were not pulled out during the first seismic event. Listen, it was intentional because they were not pulled out.
Yeah.
You understand? So we accident, if we were to be referring to an accident here, we would then consider it as such, an accident. But unfortunately, here we're not referring to an accident, to an incident that may have occurred unexpectedly or unintentional. This is something that was done intentionally. The mine decided to keep workers and instructed workers to keep working in situations where their safety was compromised.
All right.
Therefore, accidents, safety is never 100%. We all agree. But just because it is not 100% does not mean that we should not find ways of making sure that we limit risk as far as we can. So it should be the responsibility of the mine to be responsible in terms of the safety of mine workers. We are not going to try and blame who and so on. Accidents do occur anyway, by the way. It's a part of life.
That's it, yeah.
But nonetheless, we are not going to adhere to a rhetoric that says that when mine workers dies because of the recklessness of their bosses, it's actually an accident. It is not. It is deliberate.
So within this specific milieu where accidents are now on the increase, obviously because, as I mentioned earlier, going deeper, working longer hours, taking out more ore, where do we go from here? What needs to be done to prevent these accidents? What needs to be done? Is it training? Is it a reimagination of the management structures? Is it, we can say it's all wrong, but to be proactive citizens, we need to come up with solutions and say, here are concrete ways, here are things that can be done practically to ensure that we keep as many people working, we keep the mines working and profitable. Without a profitable mine, there's no jobs. So where do we go from here?
I think you are actually raising a very critical and important question. Because the question, what is to be done, is not just a question, but equally in itself, it's a recommendation. Now, I think we should actually start with basics here, basics being adherence to the law, the law of safety, adherence to making, to committing yourself to all the ethics of operation, I think that is where we should start. Bosses should prioritize the life of workers. They should prioritize the safety of workers more than they prioritize the profits, If Sibanye had, literally, here was speaking about a mine that is under the spotlight for fatalities, they keep occurring. Even this morning, one occurred. Tell me, would you not try and intensify your safety measures if you know that you are under the spotlight for your reckless actions with regard to safety? You would have done that. But they are not complying. The thing that they need to do is to firstly comply, but they should also be, the government should take the necessary measures and put all these mines to account. I think that is where we should actually start, because when it comes to the mining sector of our economy, the government is not as strict as it is on other sectors of our economy, and maybe that is why we are having the persistence of these fatalities.
Why do you think? Just to stop you there, why do you think government is not as strict on the mining industry?
Well, they could have their own reasons, but just because maybe they have their own reasons does not mean that it is correct to do so. We're actually calling on them, and we actually even stated it. We're on record stating it, that we're calling on the government to take necessary actions and the necessary steps. I think it can only, if you are to engage them, maybe you'd understand their reasons, but I don't think it would be logical for government not to care about the life of its citizens.
No, absolutely. That is their first priority. They are public servants elected to make the life of citizens better. That's what a government is. So if you're telling me that the government is not strict enough on health and safety issues and policies within the mining industry, that is worrying to me. That makes me concerned.
Well, it is worrying to all of us, in fact, in fact, in our view, why is it only Sibanye still water where these things are happening? You understand? I think that is one thing that we should put into question. Why isn't it happening elsewhere?
We definitely need to look into that.
There are so many mines in the country. It should be worrying. Even government itself should be worried that it's only this particular entity where these things are happening, and you should start taking the necessary measures and the necessary steps against. Even the minister himself is on record that all these things that are happening is due to the recklessness of the mines. He is on record. He is even on record saying that it is highly unfortunate that workers had to die at the reckless actions of their bosses. Then if they acknowledge that indeed the bosses are at fault, why are they not actually taking actions? And I think for us, that is why we should actually start. Those mines should actually be held to account, and the modus operandi needs to change. It should be more about the life and health of workers, their safety, more than it is about their profits.
Absolutely. No, if the government says there was negligence, then it is incumbent upon them, it is their duty as government, as custodians of national welfare, well-being, whatever you want to call it, to investigate and put their foot down.
Well, indeed, we're in agreement here, But I think one question that we should equally pose to ourselves is that what are we going to do to make sure that the government acts and fulfills its responsibilities, And one thing that we should do is to condemn these actions, and to also keep appealing to government and to increase the outcry, because the life of one mine worker is just too much. And here we're speaking about a company, I think today, because of the death of the worker this morning, it actually brings the total number of fatalities to 21, which is even, I think, more than 50% of the total fatalities that we experienced in the mining industry this year. Yeah. That should actually be worrying.
I think this is not a issue that is going to go away anytime soon. I don't think there is a solution going to come forth anytime soon, but I think it is worth pursuing to the very core of the matter, to find out, fix, and go forward with the health and safety of the workers being the top priority.
Well, I think there is a solution, in fact. If Sibanye Stillwater defines itself as a mine, it will adhere to all the principles of mining and all the laws of mining, and in making sure that it prioritizes the safety of workers. If it continues to define itself as what it is currently, which is nothing but a mock, which is nothing but a place where actually workers die. That is what it is known for. Unfortunately, it has made such reputation for itself. If it continues to define itself and to operate in the same manner, then the solution would be for the government to stop operations.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've flogged this issue to death. I'd like to move on a bit to now to negotiations, and you guys are busy negotiating better wages with Denel. And it would seem from the research that I've done that you guys are at a deadlock. Denel's offering 3.8% in certain cases, and you guys want 12%. And then 10% for Group 2 and 8% for Group 3. Well, what is the state of play at the moment? What is going on at Denel?
Well, I think we should state on record that the figures that we've just raised, figures that were presented to us prior or at the beginning of the negotiations as our initial offer. However, there has been a number of changes with regard to the developments that have happened in terms of the negotiations. However, we find it completely ridiculous, pathetic, and provocative that a state-owned entity, an entity which belongs to the same state, that speaks about transformation, that speaks about uplifting and improving the socio-economic conditions of our people, that such an entity would actually offer a pathetic wage such as 0% to non-scheduled workers at Denel.
I need to just stop you there quickly. I want to know, and it's not the first time I've heard it, how do you offer 0%? and can you... I've been trying to ask the guys in the studio, and are they going to backdate that 0% 6 months? I don't understand.
It is to us. It is equally as ridiculous as it sounds to you. I think it shows you that we're dealing with people that do not actually have capacity here. That do not understand that the negotiations are about offers.
Yeah.
But in this regard, I think we're dealing with very arrogant people. It is not even just about the 0%. Even the offer that they gave to scheduled workers, at Denel, it is also pathetic. I mean, how do you give an offer which is less than even half of the projected consumer price index, which is even way below the inflation rate, which is and you offer that even amidst the recent VAT increase, which has affected particularly everything from airtime to transportation to everything.
To everything,
you know?
and it's going to make food prices go mental. It's going to be transportation. It's going to be basic services. Everything is going to go through the roof, and it's because government picks on very easy things like the fuel levy, like VAT, to fill the state coffers.
I think we equally even mentioned the fuel levy and the recent fuel increase. And by the way, fuel increase, if you have actually observed it, it happens almost on a monthly, if not weekly basis. But I think it is on the basis of such facts that we actually get to wonder whether the people that we're dealing with have got the necessary logic to comprehend with everything that is happening economically.
Yeah, have a look at that big picture.
Yes, because I mean, there is no one who would actually offer workers such ridiculous offers amidst everything that is happening economically. If you really do care about the well-being of your employees,
absolutely. But now I have to ask you a question. You're at the coalface here. You are working with these state-owned enterprises, and these various entities throughout your day. This is what you do for a living. Now, we're looking at SAA, looking at X amount of trillion rand they need to get going. We're looking at SABC failing. We're looking at Eskom failing. And when we look at all these state-owned enterprises, and you brought up the point, you said this is a state-owned enterprise that needs to look after the well-being of the worker being, citizens of this country. How can we justify these state entities continuing? They need to be propped up, and they don't have the cash, they don't have the liquidity to continue, and pushing them further and further with demands of 12 and 15 and 20 and 25% increases is going to further exacerbate the situation. Or am I looking at this wrong?
Listen, I think from our view, it actually even starts with the deployment. There is a saying that if you want a fish to climb a tree, you would end up disappointed. So it ends with it starts with disappointment. If you deploy people without the necessary capacity to run these entities, your fellows like your Dlozi Matooane and others, you would end up being in the same situation where we are today.
Absolutely.
But if really the government considers these entities for what they are, then they would start considering deploying people with the necessary capacity in terms of running these entities. Listen, these entities play a very meaningful role in society, and in the state itself. You must remember that the nature of state-owned enterprises is actually for the government to deliver services through a business approach.
100%.
Yeah, so they play a very meaningful role. I mean, you look at an entity like the South African Broadcasting Corporation, where we're speaking about actually an entity that has got its own news channel. We are speaking about an entity that is actually international. We are speaking about an entity that has got 4 other channels besides the news channel, Yeah. So, and an entity that has been there and been doing good, and that has been there before many of these channels that we actually see today, that tells you that this entity has got the capacity, that's got the necessary track record to show us that it has got the necessary capacity and it's playing a meaningful role in society. However, who you deploy to manage that state entity becomes the problem.
Well, that's exactly it. When you deploying your cadres and your cronies, it is absolutely, it makes no sense why you do that. These things are going to fall apart. You don't put a baker in charge of an airline. We need to create an entrenched system of meritocracy, where these people have the merit, the ability, the capability, and the will to lead these entities and to take them to their obvious conclusion of winning.
Yes, indeed. To a certain extent, we're in agreement with you. But I think one challenge, man, that we have generally across the continent is that politicians sometimes tend to have their own agenda instead of the people's agenda, and I think that is where the problem comes in. Recently, even at Eskom, it's not even at Dinel alone. At Eskom, workers were also offered a pathetic 0% increase. By the way, I don't know what is the increase there because there is no digit. But that is what workers were actually offered, and you get to ask yourself that this is the same government, by the way, that increases all these levies. This is the same government that is supposed to monitor the economy. Now, if the same government cannot actually understand the challenges that its own employees are under, whereas the economic situation is due to many factors, including even their actions for that matter, you start to become worried.
I think we got worried a long time ago. So I even made my producer laugh there. How's you know what, I think this is a monumental occasion that we've just gone through. I've been counting you. You've agreed with me 7 times, and I've agreed with you 5 times. How's that for a great meeting? Has that ever happened?
I think I cannot comment on that because I've not been counting. Maybe it might have been you 7 times. I might have agreed with you 5 times.
All right, listen. We're gonna a few minutes to wrap up. I think let's leave our state-owned enterprise bashing for some other time, and let's work our way into the NHI, the National Health Insurance Act. In a nutshell, from where you guys are standing, what do you see coming out of this NHI? What do you see happening? Is this good? Is it bad? Is it going to be another white elephant in the room that stares at everybody and makes us uncomfortable?
In our view, the current healthcare system in South Africa is discriminatory and isolates the working class and the poor from receiving proper health care. It is the type of a health system that is based on capital, which is the ability to afford rather than the need. A system that in its nature is against the founding principles of our democracy and the universal agreement on healthcare. Currently, the current statistics as released by Stats SA is that the public health sector, which services 85% of the population, only accounts for 40% of the equipment in the health sector, whereas the private sector, which unfortunately accounts for the rest of the 15%, has got more equipment, and it accounts for 60% of the equipment in the healthcare system. Another issue is that we have a situation where it's like there are 2 separate healthcare systems within one healthcare system. I don't know if you understand.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that the way our healthcare system is, there is a healthcare system for the rich and those who can afford medical aids and so on, and there's a healthcare system for the poor. But a healthcare system cannot actually be ran around capitalist ethics, the ability to pay. If you can pay, you can go to that one. If you can't pay, then unfortunately you go to that one. Healthcare system, the universal agreement on healthcare system should actually be about the need and the agency rather than the ability to pay. So in our view, the National Health Insurance will assist in a long way. Even though we agree with the National Development Plan, which is the current economic policy in the country, we disagree particularly with its economic chapter. However, the same NDP is clear that the country should address the burden of expensive private health care and also the quality of public healthcare services. Therefore, LIMUSA views the NHI as a synthesis and the only solution to realizing this goal of the NDP.
Right. So, who do we put in charge of deploying and formulating and getting this NHI policy through, when we've spent the last 20 minutes saying that meritocracy needs to be made the order of the day, and that if they can't handle the Denels and the Escoms and the SABCs and these various things because of various reasons like cronyism, like friendship deployments, etc., how do we make sure that the NHI becomes an entity that serves its purpose?
Unfortunately, we don't live in a meritocratic system which relies on the principle of what we call Shang Si, deploying the best or having the best of the best options, which is also defined as selection plus election.
Yeah.
We live unfortunately in a country that subscribes to popular democracy. However, the question of who you deploy still remains very important and very critical. In fact, we are an affiliate of COSATU. And even ourselves, we do agree with the recent call that has been made by COSATU that the current health minister of the country is the only minister that has not, or one of the few ministers, not the only, but one of the few ministers that have never been reshuffled since 2009. He had ample time to transform the healthcare sector, and he has never done that. So we have actually brought his role and his capabilities in terms of leadership under scrutiny, and we think actually that a more capable person should be brought to deal with this issue. We reiterate our view that in our view, the best way to deal with these challenges, it starts with deploying the best capable people who are equal to the task, people who are equal to the challenge. And in our view, the current Minister of Health is not really that competent.
Dr. Motsoaledi.
Indeed.
It's there of. Look, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this and trying. Once again, I'm agreeing with you again. We need a National Health Insurance Act that works for the people, not for those who are busy milking it for their own agenda. We have a look at our state hospitals. They are in a shocking condition. We look at our state's mental institutions. They are in a shocking condition. And you cannot then blame people for going to private institutions. If your kid gets sick, you are not going to go dump your kid. And if you have the means in a government institution where it's a 50-50 chance, the government needs to pull finger and ensure that the National Health Insurance Act provides world-class standards. Not just rolling out because somebody needs it. We need to roll this out and make sure it is meaningful to the people who it serves.
I think we firstly need to understand what is the National Health Insurance. The NHI is a health financing system that is designed to pull funds together to provide access to quality and affordable personal health services to all South Africans, based on their health needs, irrespective of their socio-economic status. Like we have said before earlier in this interview, is that it is based on the ability. I mean, it is based on the need rather than the ability to pay. Therefore, in a nutshell. We need to also question what you just said in terms of the privatization of our healthcare system. I mean, there are many cases that we can point out, and the recent one being the Life Esidimeni case. That is what happens when you privatize the healthcare system, because the health, you can compromise everything. I think if you look at internationally, where there are international war zones, for example, Israel keeps torturing Palestinians, of which we actually condemn, with the necessary condemnation that it deserves. But everywhere where there are wars and everywhere where there is conflict, one thing that people never mess with is the healthcare system. That is one thing that people never, that is even the most brutal regimes in the world never mess with the healthcare system. Much as what Israel is doing to Palestine is totally incorrect, is against the international law, but we also have to acknowledge the fact that they have compromised. In fact, I think Israel is a very bad example, because that is the most cruel regime in the world. But I think if you can assess generally in the world, wherever there is a crisis, the healthcare system is never compromised. Wherever there is a disaster, you can look at your tsunamis, your Haiti situations, and so on. The healthcare system is never compromised, and it's never actually put in private hands, because that is a responsibility of the government. Once you outsource that responsibility, you are actually violating the Constitution and the Universal Agreement on Healthcare.
All right, fantastic. It's 10 past 11. Dlozi, thank you so much for your time. We need to wrap it up. We've got 20 minutes left in the show. Thank you so much for your time, your comment, your insight. I think we had a great grounding here. Hopefully we can chat again soon in the coming months and see how far we've got.
Indeed, we'll look forward to more of your invitations, and thank you for the time that you afforded us to come here and unpack critical issues that affect workers in this country.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was Dlozi Matooane from LIMUSA, the Liberated Metal Workers Union of South Africa. Some interesting points, some contentious points, some... So I don't know where else to go with that. There was so much that came up there. I agreed with some of it, I disagree with some of it, but that's what a democracy is about. I may not agree with what you have to say, but damn, I'll defend your right to say it until death. All right, follow us on Twitter at AfricaBizRadio, Facebook Africa Business Radio, #HRWide, or drop us an email, info@africabusinessradio.com. Don't forget to go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and download our mobile app. You can take us wherever you go. You can listen in, you can interact, you can send us comments. All right, let's have some of that smooth jazz. Let's take a break. We'll be back in a minute.
Africa Business Radio, your one-stop resource platform for all things business news, economy, leadership, productivity, investment, and more. ABR, towards a profitable Africa.
The key to success lies in nurturing today's talent and shaping the future together. Tune into HR Wide every Tuesday on www.africabusinessradio.com at 10 a.m. Central African Time for your weekly dose of HR insights, innovation, and debate. Africa Business Radio, towards a profitable Africa.